interest. Then number 2, IS and LM curves. And number 3, business cycles. These are the 3 topics which we have scheduled to cover. Okay. So before starting, let's always, I believe in starting with the motivation. And same motivational quote I always quote every day. Why? Because I believe, and in fact you must also believe the same, that reading too much gives you nothing. Okay. It leads you nowhere. Reading only 1 or 2 quotes and keeping them, imbibing them in mind makes you perfect. Okay. Similarly in CAIIB also. Reading too much books, too many books, this book, that book, his notes, their notes, it will lead you nowhere. Read a bit, little bit, but whatever you read, you must understand it. Okay. So let's start with the quote. When obstacles arise, you change your direction to reach your goal. You do not change your decision to get there. Okay. Means important part is, whenever you face any problem or whenever you decide any goal, and then you face some obstacles, do not change your goal. Change the ways of moving towards the goal. Okay, that's important, and this we have seen very well in this COVID situation, right? We were the bankers who we must salute all ourselves, because all the institutions had stopped working, but we were working, right? Download Adda 24/7 app on your mobile. What does this app give you? Firstly, the study material for various banking exams and other government exams as well. Okay, number 1. Number 2, various updates of all these banking and government exams. Number 3, video lectures, very importantly. Video lectures of live classes. Okay, they also give you live classes. And if you miss something, you will get the recorded videos also. Okay, so what do you need else? So join fast as possible. Okay, why should you join it so fast? Because see this, you are getting 77% off. Use this code Y432. If you use this code, you will get 77% off. Means out of 100, only 23 rupees you have to pay. Out of 1000, you have to pay only 230 rupees. So much discount, even that Amazon and Big Bazaar and Big Days, full days, festival days, they don't give you, right? So much offer. Okay, we are starting with this ABM foundation series. Not only ABM, it's a combo batch basically. ABM, BFM and retail. Firstly, we are starting with ABM. So join it. We are starting it from March 28th. Join as fast as you can. Okay, timing is also which suits your banking hours also. It's in the morning. Okay, so join as fast as possible. Okay, and it's up to June. From February to June, you will get ample time. Okay, from March to June, we get ample time. Okay, so join this batch as fast as possible. So let's start with the topic. Topic of today is here. We are covering theories of interest. Now we won't be covering all the theories here because time is limited. You can join the live classes, then all the theories are covered over there. Okay, so I'll be discussing in detail about all these theories. First is classical theory of interest or demand and supply of capital theory for interest. Means what? See here, this name is not that important. This demand and supply of capital theory, that is important. The rate of interest is determined by the supply of and demand for the savings. Means what? What do you mean by this? Okay, now everyone amongst you might have seen or might be seeing that the rate of FDs are going down. Why? So this directly relates to this demand and supply of capital. Okay, the rate of interest is determined by the supply and demand of the savings. So when people have huge funds to park, because here you might have seen in that notebandi, okay, what had happened? Huge funds came in the bank. Now when huge funds came in the bank, what happened? The bank was flushed with the funds, so they had to give the loans. So once the supply is more, the demand ultimately becomes less. And what the banks have to do? The banks have to reduce the rate of interest. So always remember, the rate of interest is determined by the supply and demand for the savings. Okay. Now we'll see this in detail when we see this ISLM curve. Okay. Loanable fund theory of interest. Now what is loanable? Loanable means whatever can be provided as loan. Okay, means what? Suppose if I am having, let's say, 1 lakh rupees, but it doesn't mean total 1 lakh I can give it on loan to somebody. Similarly for banks, if banks have a deposit of 100 rupees, it's not that they can give total 100 rupees to as a loan. Okay, So this is whatever amount they can give as a loan is known as the is defined by this loanable theory. Okay, and the rate of interest is dependent on whatever amount I can give it on the loan. So what is that theory? The rate of interest is the price of the credit which is determined by the demand and supply of the loanable funds. Means what? See here, price of the credit which is determined by the demand and supply. Price of the credit means what? See here, whenever bank gives any loan to anybody, from where does it get the money? From where does bank gets the money? Bank, what is the bank basically? Bank takes money from somebody, depositor, and gives money to somebody. That is loan, the person who is requiring the loan, customer, right? So that is the business of the bank. So it depends on whatever funds, means depositors are ready to deposit with the bank. Now how will that be affected? How the depositors will deposit more? If what is banking business basically? Banking business is a business of trust. The more the trust on any bank, the more the people will be depositing it and depositing the funds. Low rate of interest for deposits is hardly matters nowadays, because people want safe money, safe parking of the funds, because we see various banks getting into that this supervisor mode, right? Supervisor means that arbitrar is this registrar is put on that bank, right? So the people are afraid, generally for cooperatives, people are afraid more for the cooperatives. Okay, so the rate of interest depends on the demand and supply for loanable funds. If the depositors deposit more money in the bank, bank will be flush with deposits, right? And if they are flush with deposits, they can definitely reduce the rate of interest for the loans. And immediately, if I am having too many deposits, I'll also reduce the rate of interest for the deposits as well, right? So what will it affect actually? How will it affect? See here, it affects like, if I have more funds to loan, I'll give you at a lower rate. Once I give you at a lower rate, what will happen? There will be more customers, more good customers, I would say. Okay, that is important. Then third is Keynes liquidity preference theory. Keynes liquidity preference theory of interest, or basically interest basically. So what is Keynes liquidity preference theory? It is purely a monetary phenomena. Means basically what does it say? Interest is a monetary phenomena. Interest is the reward for not hoarding, but reward for parting with the liquidity for a specified period. This is very cunning statement and very important statement for banking. Okay, now what happens? Let's see. If today the bank gets the funds from the depositors and it doesn't part with the funds, it doesn't give the loans, what will happen? All the deposit will be lying with the banks, right? Then how will it earn? It will earn zero, nothing. So what does Keynes say? Keynes says it is reward for not hoarding, means not keeping the cash with me, but parting the funds. I am giving it to somebody for a specified period, right? So that is basically the interest part. So why am I earning? Because I am parting, I am taking the risk. Parting of funds means I am taking the risk basically, isn't it? See here, basic rule in any financial structure is, the more you take the risk, the more is your reward. If you are risk averse, then you won't get any reward. It's like investing in those FDs and mutual funds, right? If somebody invests in mutual fund, he'll definitely get more returns than FDs, right? It's clear nowadays. So same logic applies over here for Keynes theory also. I need not hoard the funds. I need not keep the funds with me in my vault for the depositors. I need to park them with my loan takers, right? Then we come to ISLM savings, ISLM curve. Now what is ISLM curve? Basically remember this name. In fact, I would say instead of LM, it should be LPM. Okay, why? See this. Investment savings and liquidity preference money supply. See here, P is silent over here. So ISLPM I would say. Liquidity preference money supply. Okay. Now what is this curve? In fact, before going to what is this curve, I would say, why is this curve? Why this curve is that important? Okay, remember, first question of mine is, how does RBI decide whether the CRR should be 3.5 or 4 or 2 or 5 or anything? How does the RBI decide? Okay, How does the RBI decide whether it should increase the repo rate or decrease the repo rate? Everything is dependent on ISLM curve. Everything. There is nothing in finance, no central bank in any world can work without ISLM curve. Okay. Why? Because what is IS basically is here. We'll break it now. What is IS and what is LM? Okay. So firstly, what are the critical variables of ISLM curve? Firstly, they are liquidity, investment and consumption. Liquidity means what's here? Liquidity means every bank should be liquid. Otherwise, how will it be able to lend? It won't be able to lend, right? So liquidity is very important for any bank. It has to see, every bank has to see that they are liquid. The liquidity doesn't dry up. Okay. If liquidity dries up, then there is a run on the bank. Okay, number one. Then the bank is faced with the risk, means basically credibility risk, right? Then investment. Basically, what are the three factors? Liquidity, investment and consumption. So investment means what? What are the investment possibilities for me as a bank or as a human being? What are the investment possibilities? Second, consumption. How many people are ready to take from me, right? So remember, these three are the important factors: liquidity, investment and consumption. We'll see that when we see the graph. Next slide. Okay. Liquidity is determined by the size and velocity of the money supply. See here, velocity means what? Now size of money supply, see here, what are these two factors? See here, important part is you need to understand this. You need not only learn this. If you understand, you will be able to answer the questions in the exam. So what is the size? Size means how much money, how many depositors are ready to park the funds with me as a bank. And velocity means what? Velocity means how many hands does the money change. Okay, means what? See here, why did that notebandi happen in 2016? Because the velocity was very low. Means what? There was a huge cash available in the market, but it was not changing hands. It was hoarded with somebody. And once the velocity stops of any money supply, definitely the whole society goes down. Okay, so that's what is the basic rule of any money supply? The funds or the money should change hands as fast as possible. The more the money changes its hands, the more the society develops. Okay, then the level of investing and consumption are determined by the marginal decisions of individual actors. Means if I am living in the society, I will always decide how much to invest, how much to consume, right? Firstly, whenever I get suppose if you get the bonus, what do? Firstly, you consume whatever your wishes are, you consume that and then you invest. I mean, that is a general tendency. Actual rule is it should be reverse. One should invest first and then remaining part he must consume. But people do reverse way. Okay. IS curve slopes downwards to the right and LM curve, it's a reverse way. LM curve slopes upwards and towards the left. Okay. X axis we have output. Output means what? It's GDP. Generally we take GDP. Okay, or any output factor. Y axis means interest rates. Okay. Okay. Now look at this graph. This is the real picture of ISLM curve. IS slopes downwards, LM slopes upwards. Okay. Now what is this? IS means, see this what is y axis? Rate of interest. Interest rate R. What is this R? R means it can be repo rate, it can be CRR, it can be any factor, any rate which I want to study. Means the effect of that factor on the common public. This is what I want to study. So this R keeps on changing. And what is this on the x-axis? It's real output, income or employment. Means it's basically GDP, I can call it. So what is the basic study of ISLM curve? ISLM curve basic study is the effect of this R on my GDP. That is the basic, I would say the rope stretching part, rubber band stretching part. That is the basic rule, basic study of ISLM curve. Effect of this change in R on my GDP. Okay. So how does it work? Say this. R, as this R goes on increasing, if I go on increasing the R, see here, generally before increasing we generally studied for decreasing. Means if RBI tomorrow reduces its repo rate or reduces the CRR, what will happen? See this IS part, this somebody is this much he is saving now. If the rate of interest is reduced, then he will save less. Means he will save this out. He will save less, and what will happen? That money will go into the economy. And if that money goes into the economy, what will happen? The real output or GDP of mine will increase, of the country will increase. So as the rate of interest decreases, the GDP of the economy increases. Okay, because people save less and they invest more in more productive scenarios. Now you might be seeing what is the present situation. What were the earlier FD rates before 15 years? They were over here. What are the now the FD rates over here, right? Now as the rates have increased, people have shifted from FDs towards more productive resources, right? That is starting a new business or investing in mutual funds, investing in stock markets. All these are productive resources. So as the rate of interest decreases, the GDP increases. Okay. Now what is LM? LM means liquidity preference money supply. Okay, liquidity preference money supply means what? See here, again it's the same logic. So liquidity preference, people who prefers the liquidity? Liquidity is preferred by the businessman. So as the LM or liquidity preference goes on increasing, so it will be the businessman will have more liquidity in that case. As he will have more liquidity, immediately the GDP, because he will do more business then. So immediately it will affect the GDP. So what is the equilibrium? So this equilibrium is always the point of concern for the RBI or any central bank. They always see to it that the equilibrium point is their CRR, equilibrium point is their repo rate, whichever they give to the common public or in their monetary policy. Okay. So this is basically the important part is IS slopes downwards, LM slopes upwards. Y-axis it is rate of interest, X-axis it is GDP or any growth indicator. Okay. Now we'll study business cycles. Now what are the business cycles? Basically what do you mean by business cycles? Business cycles means every business will have 4 to 5 cycles. Which one? First is expansion, second is peak. Peak is the final maturity, then recession, then depression, and then recovery. Okay, this peak is the topmost part, trough is the lowest part. Okay, so it's not only single business, it's the overall business cycle, overall business in any country. So that also follows this same rule. So what are the signs of expansion? See here, expansion signs means the rate of interest decrease. People tend to do more business, start more businesses. So new startups come up over here. So what are the signs of recession? People are afraid a bit. Means people are not that much afraid, but they stop creating new businesses. They try to go for more new jobs, right? So that is basically the recessionary part. And what do the job owners do? They try to remove the this people as much as possible. Okay, or the common public or the employees as much as possible. Okay, then comes the depression phase. In depression phase, it's the worst thing. Means people are totally in negative mindset. They have a negative mindset now. Nobody is ready to start any new business. They are just ready to survive as much as possible. The new businesses are almost zero. Government can't do anything over here in that case, and the situations even which the government faces are very recessionary, okay, or depressionary. Then what happens after this depression? Again we come towards the recovery. In recovery, what happens at this stage? Whatever the negativism is there, from that only the recovery starts. Like that Sony started after the Japan totally collapsed, after that Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, right? Sony corporation came from this level. Okay. Similarly in India also, Tatas, we have seen various wars and Tatas came up from here, right? So same thing. So recovery, and after recovery again it starts. Okay, so this was the basic purpose of today's video, and basically what I wanted to teach various interest theories, ISLM curve and the business cycles. Hope so you might have liked it. Importantly, I would again suggest join our ABM foundation batch and ABM BFM and retail. It's a combo batch. Okay, it is starting from March 28th 6 a.m. So join it fast, and it is up to the last day of the exam. Okay, it covers all the three topics: ABM, BFM and retail. All the video lectures are covered over here, and you'll get totally full, means complete portion is covered over there with solutions, with examples, with case studies. Remember, ABM, BFM, you have 60% case studies, means problems, and 40% theory. Even in those theory 40% you have one-liner problems. Okay, and 60 marks you have totally, completely case studies only. Roughly 12 case studies for ABM, 12 for BFM. Okay, so I would again suggest you to join this batch. And importantly, what is the cost in this? 77% off. 77% off means what? It's a huge amount. Okay, so if the fees is roughly 15,000 something and 77% off on that, so you can definitely join this. Tell your friends, use this code Y432. That is very important. Without this code you won't get the 77% off. Okay, so I'll stop over here. Okay, and I see you in the class.